Well, I think on the topics that people care about, we're delivering.
So you don't think there's anything more you could have done?
No, I'm focused on this election. This election is not over yet.
This is this election, isn't it?
Yeah, and the choice for people is clear. So I can talk to you about what I would do if I was Prime Minister after this election, and that's to continue cutting people's taxes, to make sure that we control our borders with a very clear plan on how to do that, to protect people's pensions, and to invest more in our security and defence, and to get us to net zero in a sensible, proportionate way. Like, these are all big things that I will do if I continue to be everyone's Prime Minister after this election. And the choice for everyone is, if they want that, they've got to vote for it. And if they don't, what they're going to see is a blank cheque handed to Labour Party, potentially with an unchecked majority to do whatever they want. And that means people's taxes are going up, their pension is going to be raided, our borders aren't going to be secure.
Do you think reform could be the official opposition?
No,
But that's what you're warning today. You're warning people that they could be the opposition. You've said today you could end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Reform MPs and they wouldn't do enough to oppose Labour. Rishi Sunak, there is a shift happening. It's happening in France, it's happening here too, the rise of the right. What do you think is going on there?
Look, when it comes to the issue of migration, when I first became Prime Minister, I made a speech and I said, where Britain leads, I think others would follow. And that's proven to be right. You saw just a month or so ago, 15 European countries, including Italy, Denmark, Sweden, and others, all agreeing that our approach is the right one, saying that you've got to be able to say to illegal migrants, if they come to our country illegally, they can't stay, and that means being able to remove them to a safe alternative. And that's what I'll deliver as Prime Minister. The flights will go to Rwanda, we'll build that deterrent, which is now seen as an important part of solving this problem. The choice for everyone at this election is, if you want that, you have to vote for it. A vote for anyone else is just going to put Keir Starmer in power, and that means we won't have any control over our borders. I think people have watched 2 debates now with me and him, and they can see that on this issue in particular, the amount of times I've put it to him, and he just doesn't have any answers on it. And his track record on this issue is one where he's wanted free movement of people, he wants to close detention centres for illegal migrants, he's boasted about getting them more benefits. So the choice for everyone is clear: don't surrender our borders to the Labour Party.
I'm really interested that you chose to answer that question that way, because a lot of people, when you ask them why are you supporting parties like Reform, they talk about feeling let down by mainstream politics, they talk about feeling ignored. Immigration's part of it, but it's bigger than that, isn't it?
Well, look, everyone will have their own motivation. What I can talk about is what I'll do for people in our country when I win this election. And what I want to do is to deliver strong borders. I want to keep cutting their taxes, as we've done. I want to make sure that we protect everyone's pensions, unlike Labour, who are going to introduce a retirement tax on pensioners for the first time in our country's history. And I want to get us to net zero in a sensible, proportionate way that doesn't saddle people with bills. Like, those are the big issues of substance in this election, as well as, of course, defence and security, where again there's a clear choice where we will invest more in our security. Labour are going to cut those plans, right? So these are, I think, the big things that people are talking to me about the future direction of our nation.
But you're also warning about Reform today. You're essentially saying they are going to be the opposition party. You must have had to think about how they've got to be in that position. Do you think there's more you could have done to deal with some of these, the things that people really feel that is making them turn to Reform?
Well, I think on the topics that people care about, we're delivering.
So you don't think there's anything more you could have done?
No, I'm focused on this election. This election is not over yet.
This is this election, isn't it?
Yeah, and the choice for people is clear. So I can talk to you about what I would do if I was Prime Minister after this election, and that's to continue cutting people's taxes, to make sure that we control our borders with a very clear plan on how to do that, to protect people's pensions, and to invest more in our security and defence, and to get us to net zero in a sensible, proportionate way. Like, these are all big things that I will do if I continue to be everyone's Prime Minister after this election. And the choice for everyone is, if they want that, they've got to vote for it. And if they don't, what they're going to see is a blank cheque handed to Labour Party, potentially with an unchecked majority to do whatever they want. And that means people's taxes are going up, their pension is going to be raided, our borders aren't going to be secure.
Do you think Reform could be the official opposition?
No,
But that's what you're warning today. You're warning people that they could be the opposition. You've said today you could end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Reform MPs and they wouldn't do enough to oppose Labour.
No, I'm making the point that even Reform themselves, their deputy leader says a good result for them would be 1, 2, 3, 4 MPs. So my point is to people, like, if you care about these issues, 1, 2, 3, 4 MPs, that's what Reform themselves think is a good result for them.
Well, you're saying they wouldn't be able to stick up for you in Parliament, so you're saying they could be the opposition?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying 4 MPs are not going to be able to be a strong voice for you. So if you care about these issues, you've got to vote for the Conservative Party. If you want your border secure and migration controlled, if you want your taxes cut and your pension protected, you've got to vote Conservative for that. 4 Reform MPs, which they consider to be a successful night for them, is not going to do any of that for you. It's just going to hand a blank cheque for the Labour Party, and you're going to get the precise opposite of what you want.
You've also linked the outcome of this election to Russia. You said that Labour in government would appease President Putin. Do you really believe that?
Yeah, because at a time that is more dangerous for our country than we've seen in decades, I made the decision to invest more in our defence, a generational investment in the security of our country to keep everybody safe. Now, Keir Starmer, in one of his first acts if he becomes Prime Minister, is going to cut those plans. It's been very clear that he doesn't match our pledge on increasing defence spending, and that doesn't just send a bad signal to our allies, where we have led historically on this issue, it sends a signal to our adversaries like Putin that we're not serious about investing in our security, that we don't have the staying power to stand up to him, and I think that's very worrying. And beyond that, it's not just about the investment, it's also about the people, right? Not only is he someone who thought Jeremy Corbyn was suitable to be our Prime Minister, the person who would be the Deputy Prime Minister of our country under him, the person who would be the Foreign Secretary, people who deputise for your Prime Minister on national security issues and work on them with the Prime Minister all the time, I can tell you that, right? They don't believe in our nuclear deterrent, which is the ultimate guarantor of our security. So yes, I do think security of our country is on the ballot paper, and there's a very clear choice at a time when adversaries like Putin, like North Korea, like Iran are working together, and that's very worrying.
So a vote for Keir Starmer would strengthen President Putin?
I think it sends a signal to our adversaries that we're not going to take our security seriously.
Is that what you're saying? Because when you say somebody is going to appease President Putin, appease means to give in to demands. That's quite a dangerous thing to be saying. Are you saying a vote for Labour strengthens President Putin?
Because they wouldn't invest more in our defence. And that does embolden Putin.
But you are saying that.
Of course, I believe that our country's security is important. And our country's security, I don't think you can trust the Labour Party with it. And that's just based on the facts. Everyone accepts that this is the most dangerous time that we've faced in decades. The right thing to do is to invest more in our defence and security to keep everybody safe and to send a signal of strength to our adversaries like Putin that we're not going anywhere. We'll be able to support Ukraine for as long as it takes because that's an investment in our security. Labour aren't going to do that, right? That's just a fact, right? So if you think defence and security is important and we need to invest in it to keep strong and safe, right, we're going to do that. Labour Party aren't going to do that, and worse, the people around don't believe in our nuclear deterrent. That's quite a strong thing, right? That's not an abstract point of view.
And I think you've been very clear there. On that point, you could potentially be about to leave Downing Street. You can see where the red flashing lights are on the dashboard. If it does happen, if it goes against you, what will keep you up at night?
I made a speech about this some months ago where I warned about the axis of authoritarian states, Russia, Iran, North Korea and China, that I've seen just in the 18 months that I've been Prime Minister, working together in a way that we have not seen before, coordinating and being more assertive and aggressive in threatening our values and our interests, both abroad, but also here at home on our own soil. Right? That is deeply worrying. Right, that's why I decided the right thing to do was to invest more in our defence and security. That is what is necessary at this time, and I can tell you that, having sat in the chair and done this job and seen everything that's going on in the world, and it is deeply worrying to me that Keir Starmer and the Labour Party don't seem to think that investing more in our defence and security at this time, when we face those threats, is the right priority. Like, that shows that he's not the right person to be our Prime Minister.
Well, they have made clear that they will invest at the same level that you will, and they will set out
But that's not true. We've set out a fully funded plan to increase.
They've committed to 2.5%, they just haven't committed to a date.
Well, that's meaningless. I mean, that's totally and utterly meaningless. We have a year-by-year trajectory for increasing defence spending, which the armed forces are now already planning on. Because you can't plan to invest more in your defence unless you have long-term certainty, Kay. Now, this is really important. I've sat in the chair, right? If you want to produce more missiles and munitions here at home, you need to place long-term contracts for that. The cycle for planning for these things is years. Right? With the Conservatives, the armed forces and our industry have that certainty of knowing what is happening year by year with their budgets going up. They don't have that with the Labour Party. It's simply waffle to say, oh, we kind of think it's maybe the right thing to do, but we'll get around to it at some distant point in the future. That's nonsense. And Putin can see that and can see that there's no strength in that, and he can see they're not serious about that.
And we've put that question to them. I just want to end by talking about character. Lots of people say that you and Keir Starmer are actually quite similar. You're both quite academic people, you both like a fact, you love a ring binder. I can see in your face that you think that that's not quite right. What do you think makes you different as men?
Look, I don't know him well, but what I can see, having sat across him for the last 18 months, he's someone that changes his mind on every major issue. I've seen that in 18 months, let alone the last few years, and I'm not like that. I'm someone who has the courage of my convictions. And I can tell you what I think, and I appreciate that not everyone will agree with me, but I'm prepared to take a stand. And I think that's very important in leadership.
On that point,
and I think that is the biggest contrast between me and him, is I'm prepared to take big, difficult decisions on HS2, on making sure we protect women's and girls' spaces, right? Whether it's on the defence of our country, whether it's on tackling welfare, whether it's on net zero, all of those were big decisions that were controversial, where I've got a set of principles, and I think this is what's right for the country, this is what I'm going to do, and I put it out there. You can't name me a single big decision that he has made where he has taken a stand, or where he hasn't changed his mind on it, and that is the clearest contrast between us.
You made a huge decision to call the election early. Whatever happens, do you take responsibility for the result?
Of course I do, right? And this election is not over. There's a clear choice for everybody in a few days' time. If you want your taxes cut, your pension protected, your border secure, only a vote for the Conservatives is going to deliver that for you. And look, I appreciate that people have got frustrations. Last few years have not been easy. People are frustrated with me, with the party. We haven't got everything right.
Is that hard for you when people get frustrated with you?
No, of course it's not.
When people call you snippy, does it get a bit...
That goes with the territory.
You don't mind
right?
being called snippy?
No, like, people call me all sorts of names. Like, that just goes with the territory. You shouldn't get into politics if you're not willing to be called names. That is just life, right? And I get that people are frustrated. I understand that. We haven't got everything right. Of course we haven't. Like, we've made mistakes, haven't made progress in as many areas as we would have liked, or as fast a progress as we would like. And I get all of that, right? But this is not a by-election. This is, people need to think very hard about the future. Who do they want in charge? The impact it's going to have on their lives. I don't want people to sleepwalk into that just because they're frustrated. People have got to think about handing Labour a blank cheque. They will not be able to get it back. Right? When your taxes are going up by thousands of pounds, when your pension is being taxed for the first time, when we don't have the investment in our security, when there's no reform of the welfare bill, when we're hurtling towards net zero in an ideological fashion, which is costing you thousands, like, that is what is going to happen. Right? If these polls are right, I don't want that to happen. That's why I'm fighting hard for every vote till the last moment of this thing.
You're going to do a Southgate?
You mean a Jude Bellingham?
Well, yes, technically both of them had a hand in it, but yes, maybe.
As I said, like, it's not over till it's over, right? And that's why, like, you're with me today. You've seen morning to night. I'm out and about, talking to as many people as I can. I believe deeply in the things that I'm saying and the future direction of our country that I think is right. And that's why, in one sense, this is easy. And you're asking, like, isn't this hard, right? Actually, when you're fighting for what you believe, it is easy. And that's what I'm doing.